I am 34 years old and I'm an orthodontist. I actually was diagnosed with breast cancer November 9th of 2021, so a little bit less than a year ago. I had a double mastectomy in December, and then I had 4 rounds of chemo, followed by breast reconstruction surgery this past May, so just a few short months ago. My husband actually discovered the lump in my breast. We were intimate one evening and he found the lump, but I think that he was able to find the lump in my breast because earlier that year, I had hired a fitness coach, Lexi Maitland, and she and I had been on a fat loss phase, and I had leaned out so much during that time that I think that it made the lump easier to discover. I had a mammogram and an ultrasound done first, and then they saw the lump on the ultrasound, and they told me that it was most likely a fibroadenoma and not to worry about it, but because the edges of the scan were a little bit fuzzy, they wanted to do a biopsy. So a week later, I had the biopsy done, and then a few days after the biopsy, I learned that I had breast cancer. The day that I was diagnosed was on a Tuesday. I was at work. I was in the middle of seeing patients. I knew that they were going to call me about the results of the biopsy, and because the radiologist told me not to really stress out, I just took the phone call in the middle of patients. And so I answered the phone call, and the lady said, "Hey Colby, I have the results of your biopsy." And I said, "Oh, okay, great." She said, "Do you have a minute to talk?" And I said, "Yeah, no worries," because I didn't think that it would take that long because they told me don't stress out. So she tells me, "Okay, grab a pen and a paper." So I grabbed a little Post-it and a pen, and she goes, "You have invasive ductal carcinoma." And at that point, I swear I didn't hear anything else. I just wrote down whatever she was saying, but I literally didn't actually even hear the words that she was saying because I was just so shell-shocked. Because when you're in dental school, you learn the scary words about all the different types of omas, and carcinoma, is bad, and that's cancer at that point. And so as soon as I heard invasive ductal carcinoma, I just zoned out. As soon as I hung up that phone call, I was actually going into a consult with a patient, and I told my assistant, I was like, "Look, I just need to go to the restroom for a minute." And so I excused myself. I went to the restroom, shut the door, and I just started praying. I started pacing and praying, "God, I have no idea what is happening. I have no idea what is going on, but I know you have a plan. I know that you are putting this before me for a reason. I don't know what that is, but you have my best intentions always, and I trust you completely. Please just help me get through the rest of this day so that I can see my patients and just get through this." And so I was praying for so long that I had to snap myself out of it. I realized, oh crap, I've been in the bathroom for so long. I have a patient I have to get back to. I had a week's worth of time to process this new diagnosis, but I couldn't process anything because I didn't even understand it. I was 33 years old when I was diagnosed, and I just didn't understand any of it. I didn't understand how the heck I could get cancer. At 33 years old, I just didn't understand any of it. And so at this point, I will say that if you are not doing self-breast exams, start. The best thing you can do at this point is the first day of every month, no matter what day it falls on, do a self-breast exam. And that way you start to learn what your normal feels like. And that way, if a lump ever does show up, you know what abnormal would feel like because you've been doing breast exams at least once a month for a certain amount of time, for all this time. And then if you will know if something doesn't feel normal. So if you are not doing self-breast exams, please, please, please start doing self-breast exams because, like I said, my husband was the one who actually discovered the lump, and I wish that I had been doing self-breast exams before that. And if you're not going to your doctor at least once a year for your well woman exam, please do that. All insurances cover well woman exams at 100% cost. Anything that I did was exhausting, and I didn't want that to be the rest of my life. And I was only 33 years old, and I just knew that I could have a better quality of life. So I hired a fitness coach, Lexi Maitland, and I have been working with her the whole time up until I was diagnosed. And once my life started spinning out of control with my diagnosis, and when I say spinning out of control, I had no control over any of that in my life. I had no control over the fact that I had cancer. I had no control over the fact that I was going to lose my breasts. I had no control over the fact that, you know, I'm going to have to go through chemo and another surgery and all of this stuff. My new reality, I had no control over. And the fact that, like, it was going to change the course of the rest of my life. I feel like the only thing that I could control was my fitness aspect of my life that I had just started learning about. And so for me, when I was diagnosed, I told her, I said, Lexi, I can't control any of this other stuff that's going on in my life right now, but I can control this. I can control, you know, my fitness. And, you know, and she endeavored to help me with every aspect. And, you know, I'm super type A, so I want to hit my macros at 100% every single day. And you know, I told Lexi, I was like, I don't know how to fit this into my new life as somebody with breast cancer and through my treatments and everything. I was like, but I'm not stopping. Like, I'm not changing this aspect of my life, and we're going to keep doing it. And so, you know, every step of the way. So we had a plan all the way up. December 1st was my double mastectomy. And so we had a plan up until that day. And we kind of took it. So, like, Lexi herself in her own life had a breast augmentation before. So she had known a lot about recovery from a major surgery. And so, so she was familiar with what that kind of looked like. And so she was able to guide me on how to, number one, recover from a major surgery, because she had already gone through that herself. And number two, how to maintain the nutritional aspect of this lifestyle while recovering from surgery. And so, you know, I was completely sedentary for 4 weeks. I couldn't even go on walks. They literally told me I could not even walk from, like, the distance of my driveway, like, no further than that, because they didn't want my heart rate to go up because of healing and just so many different things. And so we just modified my macros to make sure that we could fit this all together, and so that I could heal properly, right? Because, like, you don't want to be in a dieting phase while recovering from major surgery. And so she was amazing and made sure that I was well fed the whole time, that my macros were where they needed to be. And right before I started chemo, I just asked Lexi, I said, hey, why don't we try to put on some muscle during chemo? And so she was like, okay, let's try it. And neither of us knew if I would be able to build muscle during chemo or not, but we both just decided to challenge me to see if we could, right? And I never knew how I was going to respond to chemo. And I go into every single day after chemo, after each chemo session, I talk about my recovery on my own YouTube channel. So I go into a lot of depth on there about my fitness and everything during that time. But I will say that that I figured out that I had to modify my workouts on the tail end, so closer to about the 5 to 6 day mark after each chemo session, so that I could actually work out. My macros were still, were up so that I could build some muscle, and we just had a great time with it. I was able, I feel like, put on some muscle. She says that we did too. And then, after all of that, Angel Competitions Bikinis puts out the ad for the showcase, and I just applied randomly. I didn't even tell Lexi I was gonna apply. I randomly applied, and they chose me, surprisingly. Like, I was like, oh my gosh, in a million years they'll never choose me, because I've never competed before. Like, this is just a whole new world to me and everything. And so I I was like, oh, never in a million years will they choose me, but they did. And so so that was a huge surprise. And so at that point, I realized I needed some competition heels and everything to start practicing in. So I ordered my first pair of the Shoe Fairy heels, the Radiant Olympians, and then I fell in love with them so much that I ordered the Goddess Olympians because they're so beautiful. And so yeah, I've been practicing walking in those and everything, and I'm so excited at this point in this whole journey because I am fully recovered from all of my chemo, all of my surgeries and everything at this point. And so now I can finally one day get on stage, you know, when my coach tells me that just live my best life, and this is one way that I've chosen to do that.